If you are studying to become a mortgage broker with your CeMAP exams, in this video, we're going through some essential tips that you need to know in order to pass those exams. My name is Ash Borland, your mortgage business coach, and today I'm joined by Charlotte Hemingway from Future in Finance. She is a CeMAP coach who's helped hundreds qualify as mortgage advisors, so stick around because Charlotte's got some game-changing insights to share with us all. Charlotte, based on your experience, what are the essential study tips that you provide to your students?
I think step number one is always to have a plan. If you can break it down on a timeline for what's reasonable for your life, that's going to make everything seem more achievable. People can generally see their future as a mortgage advisor and what they're doing, but they need to be able to get to place. So I say, okay, what does your life look like at home? Because everybody's different. Those who have kids, dogs, and big families and all that kind of stuff, their time is probably going to be limited to your solo person who lives alone. They might have a cat and they don't really do much at the weekends. Those guys can get qualified in a few weeks. It does depend on the person. So I say step one is, okay, give yourself a reasonable expectation, because if you have 5 kids and parents that you're caring for and 2 jobs and lots of hobbies, the chances of getting qualified in 6 months with all 3 exams is going to be pretty slim. So step one is to be realistic, paint it down on a calendar. I like to have a paper calendar where I can write stuff down. When I was doing CeMAP, I used to cross days off to my CeMAP exam. If you can get the exam booked in, you can see yourself progressing towards it. It might make you more geared towards studying. Not always, but sometimes people get close to their exam, they're not ready, and they just don't feel like they should reschedule it. And that's a problem, because if you're not ready to sit it, do not throw £223 down the pan. Reschedule your exam. You can do it anytime up to 24 hours before your exam, and there's no shame in pushing it back. Life happens. Yep. Step one is to make a plan as to how long you think it's going to take. Step two is to find the right revision material. It might be that a couple of different study groups and your textbook works for you. Most people tend to be more geared towards the self-study e-learning style of platform where you can log in, work through the material at your own pace, in your own time, in your pajamas, in bed if you want to, make notes and retain the information. But the one thing I would be cautious of is a lot of the e-learning platforms that are available online come with a time restriction, and it's either 3 or 6 months. And in my opinion, that is not enough for everybody. And if your entire life is so blocked out that you just don't think you have the time to study, because I do have those students as well, the masterclass is going to be the way to go. It's 5 days out of your life, Monday to Friday, 9 till 4:30, and by the Sunday, you're going to be past your exam. You almost can't put a price on that if you have a really busy lifestyle.
With the masterclasses, I find that they are the way I learn. We spoke about this many times in other videos, on podcasts, and also individually. They might be more expensive, but the faster you can get up and running, the quicker you're going to make more money. They pay themselves back. I find that's the tipping point for me, in my personal opinion.
That's exactly it. And people can also use financing options. For my courses, I offer ClearPay and PayPal credit. And some of my students have said by the time they've got to the end of their PayPal credit agreement to have to settle it up, they've already found a job with a network and paid it back. Sometimes that is the best alternative when you think about the kickback that you're going to get on the other side.
I like that. And there are any particular resources or tools you constantly recommend? We've got lots of videos on this channel with you talking about the same stuff, but what specifically do you think these tools that you're consistently always recommending?
Always recommend to everybody to get into a study group of some sort. It might be with your mates at work, but sometimes you finish work and you don't want to speak to the people that you work with. And I get that. I now work from home by myself and I still feel like that sometimes. You can find study groups. There's a Facebook group that we always rave about. It's the CeMAP study group. There's loads of people just willing to help in there. And at some point, you're probably going to hit a wall with your studies. And just being able to go to a group of strangers and be like, can somebody just show me the light, is a really good place to be. I have a WhatsApp group, which is a Future in Finance specific WhatsApp group, but anybody can join. It's completely free to join. You don't have to buy anything, but there's 400 other students in there that are also getting CeMAP qualified and going through the same journey. And some of the conversations in that chat are beautiful because it's people genuinely wanting to help other people out. What I will say is mute it, because you can guarantee that somebody instigates a conversation about endowments at 2 a.m. So you need to mute the chat. But I think a study group is a really good place to start. That's invaluable. The second part is getting your hands on some mock exam papers. I always say to my students, 50% of your battle is understanding the giant textbook. The other 50% of your battle is figuring out how you actually apply that on your exam day. You can get your hands on mock papers directly from the London Institute of Banking and Finance. You can buy it through your Brightspace access, which is what you get access to when you pay for your exam. They're about £33 each, I think, and there's 3 of them. And they are geared to get you ready for the exams. I also offer exam style papers on my website, and they're different from the LIBF ones, but the whole idea is this is the type of language you are expected to see. Are you familiar with it, or is it going to throw you off on exam day? Because that's what nobody wants.
And so with the exam papers, how often would you recommend, how would you balance them in taking the exam? So you do your studying, but what would your ratio be of running mock tests versus studying? What would you normally say people should be doing?
If we use CeMAP 1 as an example, in Unit 1 of CeMAP 1, the first half of your exam, it's based on chapters 1 to 16 of the textbook. So what I would say to people is when you are past chapter 16, you should be doing a mock paper every time you come to study alongside your Unit 2 studies. So chapter 17 to 25 are Unit 2, because otherwise you're going to forget about Unit 1, and then 2, you'll sit the exam, do well on Unit 2 because you've been studying it for 6 weeks, and you'll have forgotten what an endowment is. By the time you get past the first unit, you should be splitting your time 50-50 to hammer in the mock papers to keep your knowledge fresh whilst learning the rest of the material. Once you've got through both units, I'd be making sure to be consistently passing any mock papers you can get your hands on before you're ready to sit your exam, because if you're not, it suggests there's a big enough gap to run the risk of not passing on exam day.
What do you see from your experience, the common pitfalls, the common problems that people do when it comes to their studying? Generally, not just in each individual module, but just across the board, what are the things that you see that you're like, yeah, that it falls to the side, or what's the things you notice?
One big thing that I notice is people think that they cannot use the textbook at all and just use the free stuff that they find online. Like my podcast is a really good example. People will come to me and say, I've listened to your podcast, and I think I'm ready to sit the exam. And they'll be like, cool, no, you're not ready to sit the exam. There's so much more that you have to do. There is a lot of free material out there, and definitely utilize it, but it is not enough unless you have something that is a fully comprehensive study guide. It's not enough to just read around the subjects. And I do get that quite a lot. And I always have to say to those people, I get it. If you want to jump in and give it a go, I wish you all the best, but it isn't enough. Do something else, at least go through the textbook. And for me, that's one of my biggest barriers, because people, they see the exam and they say it's 222, it might be 223 pounds now, and they go, that's a lot of money. I don't want to spend any more money. I get that, but if you're not ready to pass it, you're going to pay a resit fee and probably go and get support from something else anyway. So I always say, just put the money in up front in something that's going to give you the support to make sure you're ready on your first sitting. You
do also find with those, when they update the books, people don't buy the new books, and I think that caught me out. That was what caught me out when I failed my first one. I was using a book that was a year old when I first did it, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then there was a bit in it that had changed.
This is probably a really good tip. You don't have to buy the new book anymore, because in the Brightspace platform on the London Institute of Banking and Finance's website, it will give you the updates. So not only can you access the new textbook in a digital format, but it will give you all the changes that it made from the previous textbook to the next one. I think it's 20 quid to order yourself a new textbook. And if you are a fan of the textbook, I'd say get one. It's worth the money. But if you don't want to drop another 20 quid, you can get the information for free online.
Makes sense. And then do you have any special techniques that helps people who are busy? This is the one I'm more interested in. People who are busy, me included, I've got 2 kids and stuff like that. Like, I look at my life now and go, how on earth would I study doing what I do now? I would find that very difficult. What kind of tips and advice do you have for people to make the most of their revision time?
It's funny you mention that, because the start of Future in Finance was geared towards the busy person. The first product I offered was audio files. The whole point was, if you are too busy to sit down for an hour a day with a textbook, I can guarantee that you probably spend an hour a day either commuting, in the gym, walking the dog, or at least 20 minutes cooking. You've got some amount of time where you can fill your brain with information just by listening to it. So find something that accommodates your lifestyle in that way. I have so many messages of people that are like, Charlotte, I cannot wait to not have to listen to you in my car anymore. No offense. Because every single day on the way to work, they'll be listening to an audio file to keep everything fresh. And then every single night on the way home, and they have dreams about my voice. Or people send me pictures of them on holiday, and it's like the sausage legs picture in front of the swimming pool.
Yep.
And they'll be playing the audio files. And it's perfect, because you don't have to lug this around on your beach holiday. So just find something that's as busy as you are, in a sense of you can take it in your pocket.
I love that. Yeah, there's things as well, Speechify and stuff like that help a lot. I know I use a lot of that for the FCA updates, like any financial promotions. I Speechify the hell out of that in the gym because I'm like, I can't deal with that. So I think that's a pretty good one. If you want to know exactly how much your CeMAP exams cost and how to study them all of the costs involved in that, then check out this video on screen where we break down that with Charlotte right here.